Vibes Radio, nobody can stop reggae. Staying true to the foundation of reggae music. Cease and Skoll.
You must stop.
And yes, it's a stir it up time. I know it's a time that each one of you guys really love. And tonight we said, hey, you know, we got to take care of the Vibes Nation. And we have Dr. Michael, hey, from Austria. Akili msimone hivi kwanza. Mike ni aje?
Poa.
Yeah, by the way, Mike kuna vile anajua Kiswahili hapa na pale. He's got a special relationship with Kenya. And we're super happy to have you here, by the way. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Season Skoll.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, man. So we are going to be talking tonight to Dr. Mike and about HIV and STDs in relationships. Something that, you know, we feel like we taboo to talk about sometimes, and we're not so open to talk about it, but I think it's very important. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? What it is you actually do as a doctor?
So I'm a dermatologist, but I'm specialized in HIV and STDs. So my main focus of work has always been HIV and STDs. So most of my patients are HIV positive or suffer from any STD.
Okay. And you have been coming to Kenya for a while. Have you been seeing any patients in Kenya as well, or not really?
I have. I've actually been working in Kibera for quite some time.
All right.
Just doing some voluntary work, which has been pretty interesting.
Yeah.
You get to see a lot there.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been pretty cool.
All right. So guys, Dr. Mike, dermatologist, but specializing with HIV patients and STDs. And we know that these things come up.
Yep.
Something happened some time ago. I had a friend, Sheriff, and namjua yeye, of course, najua pia chali yake. So one day I'm out, I'm in Kanini, I'm having a great time, and then I see this guy walking up to me, furious. He's about to bust, red, like literally. So I'm wondering, kwani what's up with this guy?
Yeah.
So amemsalimia, you know, vizuri, yani ni aje, ananiambia, your friend gave me an STD. I'm like, wow. Alafu najua nilikuwa na mabeste wangu wengine hapo. So wazee wananiangalia ile suspect ya Nas, ni watu gani hao mabeste wako wanapatia watu and then I'm like, and literally, and they're married, by the way, they've been married, they have 2 kids together. So I'm like, hey, calm down. He's like, no, you have to talk to her. Like, what is this? And you know, he was blowing the roof, and honestly it was so embarrassing for me. I didn't even know what to say at that moment. I had to escape. I didn't kimbia because sikuwa na any info. I didn't know what to say. And then of course I had to go and talk to his wife. Maybe the next day I called her. I'm like, she's like, yeah, man, hiyo kitu inabidi tukae tuongee.
No, man.
You know, man, things happen. And I was just like, wow, you know, these are serious things that happen even for relationships. Not just, you know, people who are single, but also people who are together, because things happen outside Uko. So tonight, we are going to be talking about this when we come back. If you've got any questions, head on to the socials, #NiSeasonSkoll, and of course, Vibes Radio across all platforms. Ama, if you're comfortable writing Musical Sheriff at Musical Sheriff, or at Nazizi Hirji, Instagram, Twitter, Nazizi with capital letters on Facebook. And when we come back, we're getting straight into it. So keep it locked.
Strictly upfront vibes on Vibes Radio.
And of course, like we told you, we've got our guest in the building. Mike, yo. From me, welcome one more time.
Thank you very much.
Of course. And now, getting right into it, we want to talk about HIV in relationships, and especially when one partner is positive and the other one is not. You know, many a times, and especially we're dealing with a lot of stigma issues in Kenya.
Yes.
And I'm sure it's not only Kenya, it's almost worldwide.
Yes. That's a
problem. What can be done against it, and why is it even stigmatized in the first place?
So I think, coming to your second part of the question concerning the stigma, I think people need to know more about HIV and how HIV as a disease can be treated nowadays. So basically right now, we have so many treatment options that HIV is a chronic disease.
Yes.
Just like diabetes or high blood pressure, people need to take a medication on a daily basis, but in order, like when they take this medication, they can live a normal life and have like studies have shown, a normal life expectancy as well.
Yes.
So this is, I think, very important in order to get rid of the stigma, that people know more about the fact that it's a chronic disease. It's not something that will kill you unnecessarily, like it was maybe 15, 20 years ago. And when it comes to relationships and there is one partner being positive and the other one being negative, this is also not a problem anymore nowadays, because the medication that is available right now, also here in Kenya, will decrease the viral load in your blood. So it will basically decrease the risk of infecting anyone else. And if this viral load is below the level of detection, it's so-called undetectable, then the virus is not transmittable through sexual intercourse.
Yes. Now, talking about relationships, right? I want to bounce off another question to you. There's this discordant couples,
yes,
right?
yes.
Where one is actually positive,
right?
This other one is not even using any protection, but they can't really get HIV.
Exactly.
Is it still there, or nowadays it's?
Well, we have a lot of serodiscordant couples where one is positive and the other one is negative. The only thing you have to keep in mind as being HIV positive is that you have to take your medication on a daily basis and that you have to go to frequent checkups at your doctor's office. So we usually recommend every 3 to 6 months. And if you do that, it has been shown that you cannot infect anyone else through sexual intercourse. So that means if the viral load is below the level of detection, you cannot infect your partner.
Yes.
So basically, we have a lot of couples where the one person just figures it out during the relationship because of the fact that they develop any diseases, and then the physicians do some HIV testing, and then they figure out they're positive. So then they just have to take a condom for a certain period of time until the viral load in their blood is below the level of detection. And after that, they are not infectious anymore through sexual intercourse. They are still not allowed to donate blood, but they are not infectious through sexual intercourse.
And this is interesting, Sheriff, because I didn't know that. I thought, like, if you're going to have one partner positive and one negative, that you'll always have to use protection so that you don't infect the other person, right? But now, listening to what Mike is saying, is that it's only for a period of time you can use protection, and then after some time of now taking this medication, when the viral load is low, you don't need protection. So, but then, we were talking about love is a gamble. Doesn't it kind of almost feel like it's gambling with your life? I don't know. Would somebody be super comfortable saying, hey, my partner cannot infect me? Are there people who really are confident in that part of it? Or do you feel like partners are 50-50 about that? They're like, oh, I'm not so sure that I can't be infected,
I think it depends a lot on trust. And what I've experienced most is that actually the person being HIV positive is the one who's worried most about infecting the partner, not the other one.
Okay.
So the secret behind this is just that you have to continue taking your medication. There's often this thought that you can just take your pills for a certain period of time, then you can stop. That would be a huge mistake, because the moment you stop, you start being infectious again, and you might infect others as well. So you just continue taking a treatment for the rest of your life, and you will not infect anyone else through sexual intercourse.
Okay.
Well, now, if we are talking about discordant couples, don't you feel that sometimes you might feel like you're Mr. Superman, that you can't even get it from anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean,
like if you're not able to get it from your partner, discordant, why? It means you can't get it from anywhere else.
Well, the reason why you can't get it is basically because your partner is on treatment.
Yeah. So if you think you're Mr. Superman, go and try, and we see how super you are. Yeah, man, we're here talking to Dr. Mike about this. If you've got any questions, I see some questions coming through already on the socials. The hashtag ni season sekolapo kwenye Twitter, and you can also go on to Facebook. You'll see a really nice post up of Dr. Mike. Unaweza pia andika maswali yako hapo, and we'll be checking them out. And when we come back, we're getting right back at it. For right now, we're getting into the Lovers Mix still, so keep it locked.
Playing real reggae music on Vibes Radio. This is Cease and Sickle on 104.5 Vibes Radio. Nobody can stop reggae.
Yes, sounds of Luton Fire, Loved My You. Playing on a Lover's Mix, a musical Sheriff Pandedex, the love doctor himself. Na nimeona mtu hapo ameandika, there's a real love doctor in the building today.
You wait.
They're dissing you ati kuna real love doctor.
I'm still here.
Kwenye building.
I'm going to deal with you tomorrow.
I tell you. And yes, tonight we're talking about HIV and STDs in relationships. And if you've just joined us, we have Dr. Mike, who's from Austria, visiting Kenya and has a special relationship with Kenya. Has been working in Kibra sometimes, doing voluntary work. So we're really happy to have him here answering some of our questions. Now, my question is, for those who are HIV positive, how do the treatment options look like nowadays? Because before, it was like a deathbed. Like once somebody has HIV, that was the end of the story, right?
Right.
And also wanted us to talk about PEP and PrEP also. In case you've never heard these things before, tutakuja kukuchanua leo tukwambie what it is. So first of all, the treatment options, and then we can get into the next part of it.
Sure. So nowadays we have quite a number of antiretroviral treatment options, and usually the antiretroviral treatment is a combined treatment. So usually it consists of 3 different substances. These 3 substances can often be combined in one single tablet. So patients often have to take a single tablet regime per day. That means just 1 pill, 1 time per day. 1
pill. Sheriff, did you know that? That it's 1 pill?
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm still from the school of you have to take, when you hear ARVs, you're going to take 10 pills a day, right? So it's nowadays just 1 pill.
Right.
Once a day.
Right. The only important thing is, again, you have to take it every day, pretty much at the same time, so that you do not develop any resistances. Because the virus, let's say it like this, is a bit smart. So that if you don't take your medication properly, the virus in your body might develop a resistance against one of these 3 substances, and then your physician, your doctor, has to change your whole treatment because only 2 out of the 3 might work.
All right. Okay.
My understanding is that the first pill is usually the first line. And
yes.
If you develop a resistance to that one, then you get taken to the second line.
Exactly.
Second line means you need to take more pills.
Exactly.
If they develop another resistance, again, you take it to the third line.
Wow, it
makes it more and more difficult.
Yeah.
Even
for each and everyone.
So if you are HIV positive, take your medicine. Make sure you don't skip it. Take it at the same time every day, so that you stay in that kind of safe place where you're not complicating your own life.
Yeah.
Is there other things, for example, like taking ARVs and drinking alcohol? How does this work? Unajua?
Well, most of the ARVs that we have available right now, also here in Kenya, they go, let's say, pretty well with alcohol as well. I mean, of course, you should not drink too much.
Yes.
But the regular social drinking will be fine.
So it's not like a total, you cannot drink at all.
Exactly.
All
so there are
right.
just some pills that you have to take with food, for instance, but they're just very few. Most of them have hardly any drug interactions or any interactions with alcohol and so on.
All right. That's interesting. Now, recently there's been talk about PrEP, right?
Right.
Maybe not so many people know about it. I read about it for the first time maybe just recently, and that a lot of people like South Africa were using it. But you told me it's also available here in Kenya.
It is.
And can you tell us, first of all, for those who don't know what it is?
So PrEP is the so-called pre-exposure prophylaxis. It means that you can take pills in advance if you know that you, for instance, might have unprotected sexual intercourse. You're planning to do that so that you will not get infected with HIV. The important thing here is that these pills, if you take them correctly, will only prevent an HIV infection. They will not prevent any other STDs, like condoms do.
Okay. So it'll prevent you from getting HIV one time, not forever, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, that one time. But like Mike said, something very important there. You still might get STDs. A condom will protect you from all of the above, and also from unwanted pregnancies, right?
Exactly.
Because a lot of people forget that part. And in Africa especially, people forget that part until much later. So I think that's important to know. And so what happens, the other question is now, what happens if the protection doesn't go as planned? It breaks, or it was a cheap thing, it had expired, because there was a time there was a lot of expired Nanis
stuff on the
condoms
market,
in the market, right? So what happens if it breaks? Is there like any other form of protection someone can use, like after something happened, a mistake, and then it's like, whoops, now what do I do?
Yes, you can use the so-called PEP, which is the post-exposure prophylaxis. So the difference to the PrEP is the PrEP consists of 2 substances, while the PEP is actually like a proper HIV treatment consisting of 3 substances. However, you would have to take the PEP starting within 48 hours after the, let's call it, accident.
Okay. And so then you would be protected from...
You will be protected, exactly, but you would have to take it for a whole month.
Okay,
you
for
take
a whole
pills
month.
for a whole month.
So this also happens with, for example, rape cases.
Exactly.
So this is what they give the people who have gone through that.
Exactly.
So they would take that for 1 month.
Right.
And
you just
then
need to start as early as possible. But you definitely have to start within 48 hours after the event.
Okay, all right. Yes, we are talking things HIV and STDs, and when we come back, we'll still got more questions, and of course I'll be checking out the socials to find out what you want to know, because I can see some interesting questions.
I'm itching for
and
one.
Sheriff is also itching to ask something.
I have a very interesting question.
All right, we're waiting for that.
Itching.
Don't worry, keep the itch. And when we come back, we're gonna deal with it. But right now, we're getting straight back into the music. Up next,
Yes, Mark Chipre is Easy to Love. Of course, it's Easy to Love Vibes Radio. Season 2nd.
Staying true to the foundation of reggae music, Season 2nd.
And I hope you enjoy the mix wherever you're tuned in from Mombasa, Nyeri, Meru, Eldoret. And of course, yes, my name is the musical sheriff alongside the Roots Daughter. And of course, with Mr. Mike. Now, that itching question, before I get to the other question, the name Skoll. I'm sure you know what I'm going to ask. All right, so I know Skoll means cheers.
Cheers, yes. In Norwegian.
In Norwegian, yeah, it means cheers. So that's why it's been itching to ask you, do you have some Norwegian origin? Is just a name from Austria, or is this?
No, actually, it's. I think it's a pretty rare name in Austria, and I have no roots to Norway as far as I know, or also no roots to alcohol as far as I know.
Oh, because Skoll is also a beer.
No, it's like because cheers, like for alcoholic drinks.
but don't you
The
think
brand called Skoll.
Cheers, Mike, is a
Yeah.
really good name for you?
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yes, there we are
It
with my
suits you.
cheers.
Yeah, man. And we're here talking to Mike about serious things, actually, HIV and STDs in relationships. And Sheriff has another important question to ask.
We were talking about how you need to do PEP
Yes.
within 48 hours after exposure,
Exactly.
right? Now, in terms of STDs, at what point should you get screening if probably you realize, you're maybe you're exposed?
Yeah.
Or does it just apply just the same way as HIV?
Well, if you had some casual partners, you should definitely get tested. I mean, there is a certain diagnostic window.
Yes.
So if you had like a casual partner today, you cannot do a test tomorrow. Of course you could, but it will most probably turn out to be negative
yeah.
because there's a certain diagnostic window. It takes some time for the pathogens in order to grow. So usually I recommend my patients to do an STD screening 2 weeks after the sexual event has happened, and especially also when starting a new relationship. People often in new relationships, they think about condoms, most probably because they want to avoid a pregnancy right away.
Yeah.
But it's also very important in order to avoid any STDs, and before having unprotected sexual intercourses, you should definitely do an STD screening, both partners.
But now, doesn't this put you in a bit of a pickle? Because now, if you need to do PEP within 48 hours,
Right.
and then so that means you do start PEP in
Right.
48 hours, again 2 weeks you do for STD.
Exactly. So usually,
Wow.
like if any event has happened, worst case, for instance, if a rape has happened, we start PEP right away. However, we do also the STD screening 2 weeks after the event has happened. Of course, it could be that people develop any symptoms after 6, 7, 8 days, but sometimes they are asymptomatic. So it's definitely important not to forget about the testing after the 2 weeks.
Yeah, and to be careful with your tools, please. Also.
And it's also important to keep in mind that the diagnostic window of HIV, for instance, is much longer.
Okay.
So after 2 weeks, it would be too early to test. So the diagnostic window of most HIV tests is about 3 months. So after 3 months, you can definitely tell that you are negative back to that event. Yeah?
Okay.
Because of that event.
And I don't know, what are some of the like common STDs that might just go unnoticed? You know, like as you said, there's some that are asymptomatic. I think we all learned this word during COVID. Some people were asymptomatic but positive. Right. So, you know, what are some of those, you know, maybe common ones that can go unnoticed?
Well, especially in females, many STDs seem to have less symptoms or no symptoms. So for instance, chlamydia infections are often detected a bit later in females than in males.
All right.
Also gonorrhea, for instance, which are bacterial infections, and this is pretty sad because they would be easily to treat with antibiotics for a certain period of time, and then they are gone. But if you're asymptomatic and you don't know that you have the disease, you might potentially spread it to your partner, or in the worst case, it might cause severe symptoms later on because it was not treated instantly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So with the women, since that you can't really know, is it advisable to also, when you go for your checkups every now and then, do a screening for STDs?
Yes, definitely. And it's also important that, for instance, there's HPV, which is a viral infection, human papilloma virus. There are more than 100 types of these viruses that can affect the human body, and some of them are more severe than others. And everyone who has had casual partners or who has been intimate with someone has most probably been infected with one or the other type of these human papilloma virus.
All right.
So it's important, especially also for women, that they get checked by a gynecologist once a year, because this viral infection is one of the few causes that could lead to cervical cancer. Yeah?
Okay, quite interesting.
Now, just slightly maybe off topic, not off topic, actually, we're talking about STDs, right? So I know sometimes ladies, due to using birth control pills and system programs, basically, they sometimes struggle with things like yeast infection, and some kind of infections that are not necessarily STDs.
Exactly.
But they can transmit them to the partner, who sometimes may think that they've been infected with an STD, yet you never went anywhere. But by the time you realize it was not an STD, the damage is already done, because you blew up in front of them. What did you do to me? And so, how would you advise in this particular case? Say, for example, somebody who got infected with a UTI, and they really don't know how to handle it, and probably they didn't know what to do, or for the ladies, especially, or for the men.
Well, I would first see my doctor. If you have symptoms, if you have like urethral discharge, if you have an itching or burning sensation, I would definitely go to the doctor's office, because, of course, like you said, it does not necessarily have to be an STD. Especially when it comes to yeast infections. Women can acquire yeast infection because of many different reasons. For instance, antibiotics intake and so on. Men most probably acquire a yeast infection because of sexual intercourse. So with men, it's completely different. But if you have any symptoms, anyway, just go and see your doctor, because it does not necessarily have to be an STD. But if it is an STD, there's nothing for you to freak out. You can just take the medication. Most of them are pretty easy to treat.
But you know, the man won't realize that it's just an UTI. We'll just see something and like, yo.
Yes.
And I think this gives us reason to say we should keep Mike on for a little bit more, so we can talk about this, because of the stigma of, you know, one partner getting diagnosed or knowing that I have a certain sickness and now I'm probably passing it on, and how we can deal with these things in a relationship. And also there's some questions we haven't answered yet, and we're about to get to the end of this hour, and I don't know, Mike, are you up to answering more questions?
Of course, anytime.
Okay, amazing.
You must start.
Strictly conscious vibes on Cease and Seckle.
Yes, people, straight up is the time when you get, of course, let us know what you want us to play for you on the request hour on Wagwan. And, of course, send some shout outs to your friends and family. And don't forget that we still got DJ Skoll.
Wow, you've just made him
He
a
wants to be a
DJ.
DJ. He wants to be a DJ.
Perfect.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's why I call
Okay.
him DJ Skoll.
All right.
Gotta take some private lessons from you.
Yeah, man. And I'm seeing, the reason why we've kept the doctor here. It's a very important topic, and we want the Vibes Nation to take care of themselves. But also, there's questions coming through on the socials, and I see Munene Murasta and also Jaldin Mohammed from Uganda asking, when will the world get the vaccine for HIV and AIDS?
Well, this is a difficult question to answer because, like, pharmaceutical companies have been working on vaccine development for quite some time. However, the results that they could show is that the efficacy of the vaccines they've been working on is not as high as that they could publish it and make it available for everyone, because you have very low efficacy rates in the studies. So therefore, most of the vaccine studies are stopped even during the trials because the outcome is just not good enough in order for it to put it on the market.
Now, let me put in a conspiracy theory out somewhere. It's being said at times that the HIV maybe made vaccine is already out there, but the pharmaceutical companies seem to be stifling that from being released.
Yeah.
Could this be true? Is there any truth to it?
I don't think so. I think when human beings are afraid of anything, or if there's anything that they don't really understand, they come up with
Like
different
COVID.
types of conspiracy theories.
true.
Like with COVID. COVID is a good
Yeah.
example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy, yeah.
You know, it's always interesting to see that people usually used to say HIV was made in the lab or came from pharmaceutical companies. But they're not saying the same about like certain types of cancer or other types of diseases. It's usually just focused on HIV, just like it does right now with COVID. It's just something that we need an answer for, something that we do not know too much about.
Yes.
Which has the potential effect of killing us if we don't know about it, if we don't take medication and stuff like that. So we just need an explanation for that. I think this is basically the reason why there are so many conspiracy theories about it. But like I said, today it's a chronic disease. You can have a normal life expectancy. There have been many studies showing that.
Yeah.
You can have a normal life expectancy if you just take your pills and if you go to your doctor frequently.
Okay, all right. And another very interesting question is it true that certain blood groups like O positive or AB plus, AB positive cannot, get HIV?
Unfortunately not, no, because then they would be on the safe side. But no, it's not the case.
So any blood group, any
blood
human
group.
being.
Yes. So the blood group has nothing to do with the risk of getting infected or not.
Playing real reggae music on Vibes Radio. This is Cease and Seckle on 104.5 Vibes Radio. Nobody can stop reggae.
Yes, I always nice vibes on a Wagwan time. And yes, tonight we have been talking about HIV and STDs. And I think there's just like about a few more questions that we wanted to answer. I see a question, Hapo, from the man himself, from Mutwiri Gatwiri. Karanika today actually. Anauliza something very, very interesting hapa. Anasema, okay, in the mouth, there's a lot of bacteria. So, is it advisable to kiss each other on particular parts through the mouth, or it can cause infections?
Well, so the problem is actually not the bacteria you have in your mouth, as long as these are not STDs. However, you can spread STDs. Also, depending on the sexual activities, of course. So
Yes.
people not necessarily have to have them in their genital areas, but also in their throat.
Okay.
And these are actually more tricky because these are the ones that are more often asymptomatic. So when it comes to them, people often don't know that they have, for instance, a chlamydia or gonorrhea infection in their throat, and later on, having the next partner spread it on.
Okay. So you have to be quite careful when it comes to this. And I see also another question here from Pepe. Anasema, please ask the meaning of U equals to U
Yes.
in HIV.
So U equals U is basically a campaign that was launched by the UNAIDS a few years ago, and it says undetectable is untransmittable. So this basically says that if your viral load is not detectable, then you cannot transmit the virus through sexual intercourse.
All right, okay. Vibes Nation munajua mambo huku nje.
I didn't even know that.
Hata mimi sikujua hiyo. So we've all learned something from you equals to you. And also, I think one thing I wanted to ask was, now, in cases where a partner has, for example, like Sheriff said, a UTI, right? Does this 100% mean there's been cheating going on if one partner gets a UTI and then, they spread it to the next? Does this mean that I've been, cheating? And also, when we think about UTIs, maybe also STDs, does it necessarily mean that I was cheating on you and this is how I got this STD?
Well, when it comes to STDs, they are really just transmitted, most of them are really just transmitted through sexual intercourse. There's some very few excuses. So, for instance, syphilis infections, for instance, can be spread actually through kissing as well. Yeah, but this is not the common cause how you can get it. So, in most reasons, you just get it through different types of sexual activities. So, when it comes to a UTI, it does not mean the same. So, a UTI can be because of any other bacterial infection, for instance. So in this case, if you have any issues in your genital area, I would definitely first talk to my doctor to see if it has to do anything with an STD, if it needs to be treated, if the partner needs to freak out, or if this is just not necessary because it's just common UTI because of any bacterial infection, and it has nothing to do with STDs. However, if you figure out that one partner has an STD and the other one has no STD, we often recommend that we treat both of them because the second one could be in the diagnostic window. So to avoid them playing ping pong, so one getting treated while the other one is still being negative and then might reinfect the first one. So in order to avoid that, we often treat both partners in order to just avoid this ping pong effect.
And just a general question, are there some, being a dermatologist, are there some diseases that we find probably in your genital area that are not necessarily an STD or a serious infection, but something that's just got to do with maybe skin in general?
Yes, quite many. There are different types of bacterial infections, viral infections. For instance, they can lead to an ulceration. An ulceration is like a small wound, and this ulceration can be because of a syphilis infection, but it can be because of different other things as well. So it always depends. For syphilis, for instance, it depends on where you got infected. That's why I mentioned before, you could actually even theoretically spread it through kissing if the person was infected through an oral sexual activity and got infected on the lips, then they can spread it. Yeah, we've had some cases like this as well.
All right.
But in your genital area, there are many other things that you could develop which has nothing to do with an STD. So it's always good to go to a doctor's office and get checked.
Okay.
Well, talking about STDs, and you mentioned syphilis there. Now, there's also a danger of untreated syphilis, maybe from the mom transferring to an unborn child.
Right.
Yes.
And how do you handle this in terms of maybe treatment for the baby? Because how probably maybe the mother didn't know that they had syphilis or something.
Right. So testing during pregnancy is very important. Also because of HIV, for instance, so that you avoid the transmission. However, with syphilis, it's pretty easy to treat. Yeah, when women are pregnant, you have to be a bit more careful because you always have to do a sonography afterwards as well to check if the baby is fine. But usually you should figure that out during pregnancy, latest during pregnancy, and not when the baby is born. Yeah, because the mom should be treated right away in order to avoid the spread. And this spread of a syphilis is pretty rare nowadays from mother to child, the mother to child transmission. Just like with HIV, if the person takes the HIV medication, you can basically not
transmit to your baby.
Yes, exactly.
All right, guys. Quite interesting to hear. So don't freak out. Sometimes you might have something going on and you think, it's an STD or there's something, but it's not. It's just another maybe skin problem, a general problem. So don't freak out. Go to the doctor. It's always best to, instead of do guesswork, and also be honest with your partner. I think this is something we need to also touch on a little bit before we end tonight's show, is being honest with your partner when you see specific things happening, as opposed to hiding it and then baadaye
partner
vitu
is just seeing
zinalipuka.
you taking some medicines and some
Right.
Yeah.
insertions. You know, they call what this for yeast infections.
Yes.
You know what happens is, especially for the married types.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, these
Yeah.
things happen.
Yeah.
So you walking in the house and you're finding your wife has got some medicines. You're like, yo,
What's going on?
what's going on? You
Yeah.
got sick? So before they start explaining to you, maybe sometimes it's better if you open with your partner,
Right.
and you're able to discuss things. You know, you need to have
Very
your partner as your
important.
friend
Yeah.
to be able to be free with you, to be telling you that, I have to get some medicine for this,
Right.
so you don't get surprised that why are they taking these medicines.
Yeah, and why are you not telling me about it or hiding it from me? And those can really be sensitive issues. So yes, guys, if there's any more questions, we've got about 20 more minutes to the top of the hour. Shoot the questions now. Right now, back into the request time on a Wagwan Musical Sheriff. Up next.
Playing real reggae music on Vibes Radio. This is Cease and Settle on 104.5 Vibes Radio. Nobody can stop reggae.
And we have had the honor of having Dr. Michael Skoll with us since 8 p.m. and we have kept him longer than usual, but that's cool because this is a very important topic and we love to, teach the Vibes Nation how they can take care of themselves. And I have one more question before we close the topic tonight. This one is from Stephen Razor on Twitter. He says, muulize kama kuna any type of disease either based on UTI ama STDs that mtu anaweza kucontract through kutumia washroom. For example, ukitumia choo moja na mse yako sick, especially the sitting toilet. All right?
Well, STDs, you cannot acquire them in the washroom. Yeah, UTIs, it's a difficult topic. It depends on what you're doing there at the washroom. But like the STDs, I've had quite a number of people asking me that. Also, some patients who were actually looking for like an excuse when they were coming with their partner, but
saying that you got it from the washroom.
Exactly.
That I must have used a bad toilet or something.
Unfortunately, this is not possible.
No, if they come to you like that, do you realize that maybe she's trying to hide, or they're trying to hide something from their partner?
He's trying to hide.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, of course,
So
of course.
Do you now keep it private, or because you realize there's something, or you just tell them point blank,
Yeah, to
nah,
be
stop lying
honest.
to me?
No, like I cannot tell them what has happened because I also don't know. But
yes.
I can tell them, for instance, if you have someone who is suffering from gonorrhea, I can tell the partner how you usually acquire a gonorrhea infection, which is the way you get it. And then
That
they
means
usually
essentially
can
just
think about it.
putting him in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, you see, you're not being put in trouble by the doctor. What's putting you in trouble is your behavior.
You lying.
And you being casual with everybody. So I think this is one thing we must learn is to take care of ourselves. And yes, just a last message, to the Vibes Nation before we leave tonight.
Right, so it's just important that you know your status, especially when it comes to HIV, but also STDs, to do a frequent screening in case of many casual partners. Because like also with HIV, I always tell my patients sometimes one time is enough. It's like playing in the lottery, Sometimes you can win with just one time sexual intercourse unprotected and then you might be infected.
Yes.
So it's very important that you know your status, you get tested frequently, and if you're tested positive for any STD or for HIV, it's not the end of the world.
All right.
There's so many treatment options nowadays available, and even with HIV, like I said, it's a chronic disease. You have to take your pills for the rest of the life, but if you take them, you will have a normal life expectancy.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and for answering all our questions. And I'm going to big up someone else who's in the studio with us who's not talking.
Yeah.
It's very quiet. Madonna, thank you for coming through and sitting with us tonight. I
Just
know
looking at us.
you don't want to say anything, but you've been a good sport sitting here this whole time. So Asante Sana, big up to you. And yes, to the entire Vibes Nation for just coming out and being open. And I think also, like Sheriff said, if you have a partner, be open with them, especially men sometimes can be really curious to know why you're not telling them certain things. You might feel like you're protecting your partner, but this could be opening a window of, suspicion that might bring other issues into your relationship. And if you can get tested together regularly, it's better because you continue to build trust, all right? So, going together is a good idea because you're showing support. First of all, it's quite, even when someone knows they're negative, it's always stressful getting tested because you're sitting there waiting for the results, and as much as you know
the longest time in your life.
as much as you know you're negative, you still get jitters. You still start thinking, what if, so having your partner there being supportive is really, really good and important. If you can do that together, why not head out together and get tested together? But also, guys, we live in such a world that it's no longer about serious relationships. So many casuals. They say Nairobi is one big bedroom. So if it's a one big bedroom, then be very careful, because definitely you are going to get infected with something somewhere. And we know these kind of infections.
Kaswende.
Sago.
Hey, my friend. Kisonono.
Kisonono. The Kiswahili words, Michael, for these sicknesses. Sheriff is throwing out there to the Vibes Nation.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes we sugarcoat it for them, but you gotta tell them, yo, Kaswende is real.
And
Kisonono is real. So be careful.
Yes, be very, very careful out there. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We've come to the end of tonight's show.
Of course.
And we'll be back again tomorrow.
Yes, and very importantly, this is going out to the married types.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that just because your wife is having some medicine and stuff means they've got some STI or something. Might just be an It's called what? UTI. That might be just a UTI. So it doesn't mean that you've been infected or anything. So don't just blow up. You don't just blow your top and think, yo, wow.
Talking is key.
Yeah.
Playing real reggae music on Vibes Radio. This is Cease and Sickle on 104.5 Vibes Radio. Nobody can stop reggae.